We are going to look back at my home studio, how it's changed over the past year. I actually have a video recorded, and I published it on Twitter only, I think. This is from August 2nd, 2022, so just about a year ago. Hopefully I explain it there. I haven't watched this in a year, but that's how we're going to start this segment. All right, so I'm extremely tired and dirty and sweaty, and this is the progress that I've made on this studio rebuild. So here's the main angle, or close to how it will actually look when we're doing videos. We got screen capture here. We've got I got a webcam that's disconnected right now, and an overhead camera, which will be this other camera, the G7. My desk is no longer facing this direction. It's now facing towards the dining room and kitchen area, which means that the microphones will be off axis of the most noisy things rather than kind of 90 degrees off axis and picking up a lot of that noise. So we've got the Panasonic G85, and that's in a cage with a monitor attached that's going to my Mac Studio through a Camlink 4K, and I've got that displaying on this curved Samsung monitor. It's only a 1080p monitor, not ultra wide, but I thought that it would work better than what I was using before because it's a little bit shorter. I may switch that out for another monitor at some point, but for now that may do it. I actually wanted it to face more direct on, more forward, but for some reason I just keep getting the side of the monitor in the way, or it doesn't look right. This, I'm obviously too far off to the side, but if I move the camera over, then just, I don't know, it just looks weird. I'm trying. Rack gear down here, which is never in use, but I have it still. Huge mess of cables still. It's unsorted. Still all these tools out. I have installed the lights. So I've got my fill light here, which is a newer, I don't know, something 660. Very standard kind of bicolor softbox with a grid. Large 90 centimeter Godox with the ML150 that's attached to the ceiling. I've got a little bit of chain there for security. Ceiling anchors, no cables dangling, which was nice. And then I've got that going above the sliding window, and you can see the cables there, but that won't be on camera and it won't be in my field of view when I'm sitting there working for hours at a time. In the background, I've got this one light rather than the several colored lights, but I don't know, maybe those will come back. I still have to figure out what I'm doing with this stuff. Keyboard, mixer, guitar pedals, my PC, toolboxes. As you can see, there's a lot of stuff that still needs to be organized, but yeah, this is where I have to stop for the day, basically. And I've got a hair light here. Weird mounting, but yeah, the cloud is mounted. This is not a very good angle, but I gotta be tethered to OBS to record this. This shelf here is going to move over to this position up against the wall, so that I won't be able to see the TV area. It'll be completely blocked off. And I'll probably also build a wall with acoustic panels. I have 5 spare ones right now. Yeah, hopefully I can kind of block off the kitchen area, and this will all be nice and productive and just a nice place to work. I should also show you that all this stuff is set up on smart switches. So if we go over here, background light, and I can turn off my key light ML150. I can turn off the overhead lights. And yeah, I don't want to turn off my cameras. But yeah, I have the cameras on there and the monitor as well. So I can do them individually or with a scene, just turn everything on and off. I also have that on my home screen, lights on, lights off, that will do everything. So that's it. And yeah, back to making videos pretty soon, I think. Kind of in the home stretch on making this remodel happen. All right, that's the update. See you later. All right, so I didn't plan it, but I'm wearing the same shirt. So, okay, Chris was saying, did you move house or move studio from one room to another in your house? So I moved here in October 2020. So I had a working setup that took probably 4 months to get to, but I was in this corner behind me. It was very dark and cramped, and I didn't have a lot of space, and I was getting constantly burned out. And as sort of a desperation to get out of this funk that I was having at summer 2022, last year, I decided to tear it all down and start over. Now, I actually do have a photo somewhere, where I had literally all of my gear just laid out on the floor. Yeah, I had like a flat lay of all of my gear on the floor. That was like the start of it. Like once I did that, it's like, there's no turning back. I need to finish this project. So it's been a year since that major move, and now we're going to go into looking at some photos that I took today. Here is a photo of how it is today. When I'm sitting at the desk, this is basically what I see. Same lights. I do have this extra light here, which bounces off the ceiling. It's a small amount of fill. The overhead camera angle, Panasonic G7. It's on a monopod mounted to the ceiling. And it's kind of pointless to have there right now because it used to be just for showing the X-Touch, and now the X-Touch is in the drawer. So not so good. You can see this large rectangle here. Right here in the, can I edit this? Can I annotate it maybe? Okay, so we've got the camera that I mentioned before. But up here is a cloud, and right here is another light. Let's start with the light. This light is a newer 660, and so that's my hair light, the light that shines on my hair. And it's just another one of these, but without a softbox, because I didn't need a diffuse light for that. My main camera is here. It's a little bit different position, so it's trying to center me in the frame as much as possible with a certain amount of, an even amount of space behind me. So I'm looking straight ahead and talking directly to you, ideally. So this is a Godox LM150 with a Godox parabolic diffuser mounted to the ceiling. Oh yeah, going back to the acoustic treatment, this panel. So I put that up in August, or like last week of July 2022. By September, it fell down, and it scared the shit out of me because I was sleeping on the couch, and only like 15 minutes earlier, I was sitting under there, so I would have been hit by it if I was sitting there. But that taught me a very important lesson about using wall anchors, especially when mounting to the ceiling, and using more than you need, using like 4 times more higher rating for wall anchors than is really necessary. So this thing maybe weighs 10 pounds. I made sure that it can be held up by 60 pounds of anchors. So it very, very nearly knocked me out. I was sleeping on the couch. I was just passed out, and there's this enormous crash as it fell down onto my desk. Nothing got destroyed, luckily. It was just the hooks that I had screwed into the drywall just slipped out after too much weight. Been bumped around. I actually had lights hanging off it. Don't do that. So now I don't have anything hanging off it, and it's held up by 4 separate wall anchors with screws into that with chains, and it should be good. It hasn't even, there's no wiggle on it or anything. There's this ugly blanket here. I got to fix that. That's been a temporary solution for a year. I got to do something better than that. It doesn't block out the sound all that well. The children and wife still peek around that and talk to me constantly. But I need some better solution, even if it's just a black version of the same thing. Theater curtains would be good. But also, this is a walkway I need to be able to get through, and there's no way of putting in a hard wall there. The mic I'm using is Shure SM7B. I'm using the, what do you call it? The Blue Compass mic stand. Focal CMS 50 monitors. And they are sitting on dollar store yoga blocks. I don't have speaker stands. I use dollar store yoga blocks to get them to the right height. And I like the horizontal layout. And when you're doing a horizontal layout for speakers, you always want those tweeters to be on the outside. Anyone else use yoga blocks, or do you buy speaker stands? What do you use? I think I had these shells at the time of making that previous video, but these are a product from Vivo that I found on Amazon. They're like computer monitor stands. I originally had one in the center at my old desk setup, but then I got a second one because it just wasn't enough room for 2 studio monitors plus computer monitors. My whole desk is 6 feet across, and it's like, I think it's 3.5 deep, which is plenty of room in general. When you have a 27-inch monitor, you need to have those speakers kind of far apart. And getting them not blocked by the monitors, all that, was a bit of a challenge. So because of the height of my OBS monitor here, I can't have this speaker standing up. There's just not quite enough room to be blocked. So yoga blocks for the win. I used to have speaker stands that would go in the floor, and I still swear by those. I think those are an excellent investment if you have the space for it. Because I have a walkway, or not a walkway, but because I'm limited on space behind the speakers, I can't really lose about 15 inches of floor space for that. As it is, this tripod, you can't really see, but there's a stand there. So people are constantly tripping over the stand because like the dining room table is right there. Okay, so this next photo is just a bit lower and a little bit closer so that you can see some of the cable clutter. So we got a cable here, we got a cable here. That's a shoelace for Beans because shoelaces are his favorite toy. So cable clutter, you can see the tripod here. You can see the critical ball fan, which keeps me cool. Yeah, just some cool air to blow up your shorts. It's just so essential. This tripod, because it gets bumped occasionally, has to be weighed down, and just to reduce vibrations in this camera. So if I touch the desk or stuff like that, we don't want that camera to be moving. It's weighed down with sandbags. Is your desk made from screwed pipe fitting? Yes, it is actually. So I wouldn't recommend getting the tabletop that I got. This was, I forget what it is. It's supposed to be like a countertop. It's heavy-ish, but it's not solid wood. It's like some composite wood thing, bunch of pieces glued together with a veneer on top. It's not as heavy duty as I expected it to be. It also had dents in it. It was a bit more expensive than I would have liked. I paid for it thinking that it was like solid countertop, butcher block sort of thing. Yeah, it's just not. The pipe legs, I would recommend. I was going to order like a kit on Amazon. No, not Amazon, Etsy. But I just figured out how to do it. The main thing, if you're going to build a desk like this, start from the middle and go outward. That's the only way you can assemble it. Otherwise, you've got to like spin these huge sections together. So start in the middle, and I've got this little sort of extension. It was tricky to get it exactly right. I really like the desk, and it's somewhat modular. I can just replace one of these pipes with like a couple shorter parts and then extend off from it. I could like to have a headphone hook or something like that. I messed up though with the measurements. So these like, I don't know what you call it, flange, or it's like the leg parts. It's meant for mounting to a wall or ceiling. These stick out in a way that I didn't account for originally. So it took a couple trips to the store to get the right parts. So it looks the same on the top. So there's these round things with 4 screws that goes into the underside of the tabletop. I didn't account for how far out those would go. So that's why we had to actually go with a shorter length of pipe for the back half of the desk. And that allowed that mount to come a bit closer and not overlap. I think I just went for like more shorter pieces. I don't remember the idea for this. I think I just didn't want one long pipe. I wanted some options. I've got a Vivo keyboard drawer that I'm currently using for the X-Touch. I've got a power bar or power strip coming over here to the synth station. So again, more problematic cable management. I've got my sub here. This is a Yamaha HS10, I think it is, or something like that, HS100W, something like that. The sub is facing that direction instead of straight down. And the reason for that is I got complaints from the neighbors, basically, from the subwoofer. So I had to turn it down. I've got this isolation pad. I think it's called a Gramma, and it's from Oralex. So it's like foam with some plywood and carpet. And Beans loves to scratch this carpet. He's absolutely destroyed this thing. The thing looked mint for 10 years, and like within the first week of having Beans, he started tearing that up. I don't know why. Subwoofer under the desk, but not facing straight down, and it's isolated just to reduce vibrations for the neighbors. I'm on the 3rd floor, so yeah, subs travel down probably still a lot. Vibrations from the fan, as long as it's on the low speed, no issues with that. This rack is IKEA. It's an old IKEA, like a bedside table, I think it is, originally. It's exactly rack mount size. And I've had this for many years. This has been to every studio I've had. I've got a power strip here. I've got a Art Pro VLA 2. I've got a Pro MPA 2, which is, so this one here is a tube limiter compressor, and this is a 2-channel mic preamp. Here I've got the, what is it called? It's a headphone amp. It's the Sheet Audio Magni. And then this is a Neve style preamp, the Golden Age Project 373. It's the version without the EQ, just a transformer mic preamp. I used to use it a lot. I used to use it with the SM7B, but I don't anymore. So we can see the Mac Studio is here. It is cool and quiet enough that I don't hear it on the desk. I forgot to mention this in the previous image, but I've got this Launch Control XL from Novation. It's really made for Ableton Live, but this is what I use to control like the music volume. The music hasn't been going through the entire day. Hilarious. Well, I accidentally pressed a button. Okay, well, I've been enjoying the music at least. Anyways, this thing is noisier than the Mac Studio. There's like a high-pitched ringing from the LEDs on it. And occasionally I can hear that. And I don't hear the fans on the Mac Studio at all. We should probably turn the chat overlay on again as well. Yeah, and the headphones, maybe you noticed, these are the Verum Audio Verum 1, I think it's called. Handmade in Ukraine. There was like a sponsored review sort of thing. Pretty cool headphones. They're my main headphones. Open back. What do you call them? Not electrostatic, but something like that. They're weird headphones. Not normal dynamic driver headphones. In this angle, you can see my Elgato Stream Deck. And I have it mounted to the desk with a super clamp, now magic arm, I think it would be called. And then that's mounted inside of a phone clip. I think the brand is Ulanzi for the phone clip. And it's just something that I picked up cheap on Amazon. Oh, damn. I forgot to use the right layer for drawing. Oh, well. Yeah, so it's mounted there so that when I'm sitting at this, doing the stream, I can see various status about the stream, switch scenes, mute my mic, all that sort of thing. I don't know if he's here today, but on the Discord, Shawnobi was asking about Elgato products. Specifically the lights, and I recommended not getting the lights, but I do have a bunch of Elgato products. I've got 2 Camlink 4K, so for my 2 4K cameras. I've got the Stream Deck, I've got the Wave XLR. Sure, SM7B goes into the Wave XLR. I don't even have the gain that high, but it's actually been very good. I would recommend that, but I don't recommend their streamer lights. The rack and the pedal board. This pedal board is just always like temporary. The actual pedal board is a Pedal Train 2. The power supply is a Voodoo Labs Pedal Power 2. Then I've got a DI box here. It's a Ferrite DI box from DIY Recording Equipment. Polytune from TC Electronic. I've got a Fender Pugilist Boss Bass Chorus, Boss Chorus Ensemble. These 2 pedals sound exactly the same. Don't buy both. Boss Super Overdrive. I've got a Bass DI Plus from MXR, which is a bass distortion, just sort of general preamp. It has a XLR out, 1/4 inch out, very nice pedal. This is a Ventris reverb, dual reverb. Pretty cool, very complicated. I don't end up using it because it's so complicated. I've got a Proco Rat. I'm not sure which model of it is, but I think it's from the 90s. And I've got a Hall of Fame reverb and a flashback delay. So currently this setup, the stuff that I actually use this setup for right now is like the tuner. And often I'm just going directly into a neural amp modeler. That's kind of the pedal board setup right now, but it changes all the time and I've got a huge collection of pedals. You probably noticed this weird rack thing. So because I don't care about this table and making it look nice and stuff, because I was disappointed in the quality of the material, I just mount things to it and I've got tons of holes in it, things mounted to it. I just don't care. But I do care about ergonomics and things like that. So I've had this rack for a really long time. And in my last studio setup, this was just a footrest. So I've had these 3 things in the rack for years, but it was just to prop my feet up under the desk. One day I decided I got to make this work and it's got to be ergonomic. And I hate that I've got hundreds of dollars worth of equipment here that I never use and it's collecting dust. So it's a plywood and 2x4 rack, essentially. that I made myself. I've got another 2x4 here that is mounted under the desk, and then that's mounted to it. And then I've got this leg, just a couple scrap pieces of wood that I put here. And then I've got some hooks to hold the cables. This has actually been a great improvement because the cables that I need for the guitar stuff, it's right there. Rather than having to stand up, go to a box, dig out the cables, untangle them. Having a couple cables here has been great. The cables themselves, I mentioned this, I think last week or the week before. This one, I'm not really sure the brand. I got it from a pawn shop, but it was brand new. So, you know, some brand that makes cloth wrapped cables available at pawn shops. It says EZ on it, but this one and this one are Ernie Ball cables. I would not buy it for myself because they're pretty expensive, but they make a great gift, and I just had a birthday, and my brother bought me these cables. What's in the rack? Great question. So I've got an Alesis MIDI Verb 3. I have a TC Electronic G Sharp. So this is a reverb and delay, mid-80s, has MIDI, stereo in-out, no digital connections. This one is probably a mid-90s or early 2000s device, and it's a dual engine chorus modulation delay on this knob, and then this one is a bunch of different reverbs, and you can mix them in series or parallel. It has SPDIF in-out, but I go through with analog connections. And then this is an M Audio Profire 2626. This is an interface that I used from about 2000, I want to say 2008, maybe not quite. But I got this and I used Pro Tools M-Powered for a long time. And I would be still using this interface as my main interface if they actually made drivers for it. It's a pretty good interface. It has actually a great control software. It's been pretty reliable. But yeah, now it's just a external preamp for my synth rack and these effects processors. So I mentioned these earlier. None of these, except for the headphone amp, are connected to anything. MIDI Verb is pretty cool. It's not a hi-fi reverb, but it sounds great, I think. Someone was saying, have you tried standing? I got a standing table, never looked back. I feel like I probably should get something set up. I feel like I have a lot more energy making videos when I stand, and that's kind of rare that I do that. But yeah, I should set up something. So if I did that, I would need to replace the legs on with the motorized ones, and they would have to be able to accommodate the weight of the speakers and the camera and the monitors and all this stuff. And if it didn't, then I just probably wouldn't use it. So I should set up something so that I can have an alternate work position. I'd kind of like to have one of those walking desk things, unpowered treadmill that you can go under the desk. I kind of like that. I don't always get out to do exercise. There's a third-party developer who sells drivers for the M Audio interfaces. Actually, the main issue is that it's FireWire, so that doesn't really, I don't know, it just kind of stopped working. Okay, next photo. Hopefully this is interesting. Hopefully I'm going at a pace that is fun. Continuing clockwise around, we've got the game station. So this is my old PC. This is a PC that I used from March 2020 to March 2021 before I upgraded to a Mac Mini. I wanted the Windows experience. So many people were like, you never make videos on Windows. I can't follow. So I spent a whole year on Windows, made a custom PC, ran Reaper on that, made all my videos using that, except for when I wanted to make thumbnails for my videos. And that year was the worst year for video thumbnails because I had to use apps like GIMP and Krita, and they are just bad compared to Pixelmator, which is amazing. And I didn't want to buy Photoshop. That's the PC I used. The old setup, and for a while between the current version and using the PC, I had it set up so that I had the Mac Mini and the PC, and I was running both at the same time. Two computers needed to be running, and interconnected to make a video, and it was just a pain. OBS did not run well on Mac until this year. I would switch to Affinity if I didn't already pay for and love Pixelmator. Pixelmator has some really good AI stuff that I use fairly frequently. But yeah, so this is another 27-inch Dell 1440p monitor. This one here, which I like quite a bit. It's very thin, it's light. It's too big to have two left, like side by side or even up and down. I tried that for a while. It was hurting my neck. These are some Logitech speakers that I picked up at the thrift store locally, and I actually really like them. They sound pretty good. What are those called? The Meze Classic 99 Classics as my game area headphones. But this is a very old PC case that I bought in, I want to say 2008. It's a Antec, I don't know, P100, P500, something like that. It's a silent case. It has, or fairly silent. There's fan controllers on it, so just a couple switches to change the fan speed. The panels are not just like thin sheet metal. It's like damped with sound material. It's pretty good. It's very heavy. It's not a good place for it, but I didn't want it directly on the floor. Oh yeah, and you can see that I've got this like bamboo curtain thing. I've got a pegboard thing on the wall here. I've got this desk lamp. It's an IKEA desk lamp that's hanging from the pegboard. That seemed to be a good solution because it was too short otherwise to illuminate the keyboard. This macro pad, I showed it on stream when I first got it. I think it's called the Megalodon. That is critical for playing Diablo 4. So all my keys that I use are on that, and I barely use the keyboard at all for Diablo. Okay, guitar rack. I've got too many guitars here. This chair is actually just an Amazon chair. It's my son's. He spends half the day here throughout the week in this room. So he's got a comfy chair for playing Minecraft and Roblox and stuff like that on the computer. I've got an old Ibanez Roadstar 2. I think it's a 1986 model. Let me grab it. And this is actually my second Ibanez Roadstar 2. I had an all black one with a completely different body shape. And it had two of these pickups. Yeah, it was just like all black. Even the back of the neck was black. It was a pretty cool bass, but I just outgrew it because it didn't sound that good. I don't know. Should I pick up each of the guitars? I've got a Taylor Big Baby acoustic guitar. I've got a Sterling Ray 34, like a Music Man Stingray style bass. 4-string. Ibanez Iron Label something or other. It's a multi-scale 5-string. I've got a Fender Aerodyne jazz bass, which has a P bass pickup and a jazz bass pickup at the bridge. I'll just grab them. This is the Ray 34. You know, very classic rock style. It's a pretty heavy bass. Active pickup. It sounds really good. Plays really well. But you know, no one's ever happy with just one guitar. So for a long time, this was my only bass, and I got the Ibanez Roadstar 2 as a trade. I traded some studio services for it. It's not worth a lot, but it's also not worth giving away, really. This one seems to have gone up in value a lot. I definitely didn't spend more than like $700 on it, but I can't find any for less than like $1,300 right now. And then we've got the newest, actually shit, it's not even the newest bass that I got, but this is one I got a couple months ago. You can barely see that there's a logo on the headstock. This is a SRM S625EX 1P01. I don't know, but it's a 5-string multi-scale. You know, everything's at a different angle on this bass. But a very nice bass to play. And then this is a bass that I've wanted for many, many years. This is the Aerodyne jazz bass from Fender. Pretty expensive bass. It's got black chrome hardware, which you never see. But yeah, super thin and light, and I just really love it. Currently, my oldest guitar is this Fender Aerodyne Telecaster, which has a soap bar in the neck and a Telecaster bridge. I got this one for $700. It was just sitting like in clearance at Long and McQuaid in Mississauga. No one wanted it, and now you can't find them. That guitar is slightly modified with Burns pots. Burns is a high-end sort of potentiometer company. So I've got sealed pots in that, so they never scratch. They're very easy to move. Did the orange drop capacitor mod. So as you turn down the volume, the tone doesn't get darker. So I really like that. It makes it fairly unique compared to my other guitars. This guitar got, end of last year, Squier custom Telecaster, which is a baritone, and it's modified with a pickguard that actually don't remember who made it, but I think it was like Indigo Guitars or something like that. We found them on Instagram. This is my Solar Les Paul style guitar, GC 1.6 TAW. I've talked about this a bit. This is definitely like a metal guitar, but I was a little disappointed with it overall. I like the look of it. I don't like that it's heavy. I don't like that this switch came with a crack in it. Like there's a chip. The action's not great. It doesn't play really that well. I like the locking tuners. I don't like that I still need to buy like a strap thing. Like a company that makes like exclusively hard rock metal guitars, you would think they would have specific unique features would help with that, but they're just basically regular guitars. And I mean, like, why not have like string mutes integrated into the design of the headstock? Why wouldn't you have that? Everyone has to buy these string mutes. I really like that there's this unique notch here for this Les Paul style guitar, but they didn't put the jack there. Putting the jack right here would be amazing, right by the strap, so you can lock it down. String mute recommendation. I forget what this is called. The one with the V on it. The one with the V on it, whatever that is. I think they're overpriced, but they work, and I don't know of any other better option. One other guitar. Got this a little while ago. This is a Squier Jaguar bass. PJ setup. The pots are very unique, concentric pots, and you can adjust volume and tone for each pickup individually, where all the other guitars I have, it's one volume, one tone. I can't find another one that's exactly like this. This is actually a 2013 model, so it's already 10 years old, but it's mint, and it came with a case, and it was like ridiculously cheap. So, you're using an old sock at the moment? Yeah, I think a proper string mute's going to be better than that. This might be something that I end up modding a little bit. I can't tell if the pickup's been replaced or not, but you would think for a 13-year-old bass, it wouldn't still have the shrink wrap on it, but it does. I'm definitely going to replace the bridge. That's the main thing I want to replace. Other than that, I'm really happy with it. Sounds cool. Sounds very different. Feels very different. It's got a very narrow, like a thin, narrow neck. I like it a lot. There is no reason for me to have so many guitars, but I do. I bought some mounts for getting those, a couple of them up on the wall, but I actually don't have anywhere that would be good to do that. There's no reason for any of us to have so many guitars. Strangely, like my wife buys most of them right now. She rescues them when they're a good deal. So the back wall, this is directly behind me. You probably can figure that out. I've got a little Ampeg combo amp. I really like it. I never get a chance to play with it, but this is like a BA 115 or something like that. 112. I don't remember the model, but it's a little solid state Ampeg combo. The Jet City JCA 20 is here. I like that one a lot. This just a garage sale find. It does sort of work, but mostly I got it just as a prop for the background. This combo amp here is sort of like a no-name vintage amp. It's most likely a Garnet brand amp, made in Canada, Fender-ish. I've swapped the speaker out on it. I used to use this along with the Jet City and some other amp heads that I had borrowed before. It had a reverb, but that reverb never worked. It has a tremolo that's pretty cool. The more you increase the amount, the faster the tremolo goes, which you don't see too often as pedals. A lot of pedals here. I probably can't even name them all, but I've got some electro harmonics. I've got some MIDI foot switches here. These two are MIDI foot switches. TC Electronic Freeze. This is a 16-second digital delay from Electroharmonics. Got a Ernie Ball full-size volume pedal. This is a MIDI controller pedal. There's a little speaker. That's a Russian Big Muff. This is a Dunlop wah pedal, the gold one, just because it was like same price as regular one. Rainbow Machine. I've got some fast fret, flanger. There's my Tube Screamer. I've got the Zoom pedals that we unboxed on the stream once upon a time. I've got a Sans amp. One of my favorite delays ever, mostly because it's so cheap and colorful. This is a FX90 from DoD. At the back here, I've got a fuzz pedal that I made in college. I've got a HM2 Wazacraft version. There's a little 8-bit synth there. Envelope follower pedal. I forget what it's called. A Dr. Q. This pedal here is a Acapulco Gold, and this is a Super Phaser from Boss. This is my reamp box. That's an empty box. That's an empty box. Up here is a CV step sequencer. Probably seen that on the stream a few times. This Novation keyboard still works as a general MIDI device. USB powered only, no MIDI ports on it. It's somewhat useful, not entirely useful. Mostly it's there because I don't have the space for it. I have two other keyboards. Then you can see where I store that Jaguar bass, just because I don't have any other space for it. Any questions about what we've seen here? Number of guitars you own equals N. The correct number of guitars to own is N plus 1. Oh yeah, I'm still shopping for guitars, even though I have no time to even play them. If anyone's wondering about these photos, these are just random things. So I was trying to get my son to change his YouTube name, his YouTube channel name. I suggested Penix, and we were going out for a walk. And then I realized that was a real person. And I texted this to my wife, and it was funny. And then we were at 7-Eleven, and then I saw this, and I just had to laugh. So anyways, and then this was just an amazing kitchen. I'll try to explain what we see here. There's a lot of stuff. This here is an IKEA shelf, and there's actually two of them mounted together so that they don't tip over or anything. I've got a big acoustic panel here. And yeah, so like one side it's a bookshelf, the other side it's acoustic treatment, and then from here over, this is the studio storage. So I've got camera gear mostly in this area. I still need to put in like shelves horizontal here, just to better organize things. I've got mics here. So this is a Movo mic that I got for free. This is a CAD M179. I've got a Mini K67X from Roswell Audio. I've got a CAD E100S in this box. I've got some pencil condensers. Then we've got the Behringer RD6, which is sitting on a adjustable like laptop stand. I think that's a pretty good setup for it. This white thing is a little IKEA tablet stand. I think I saw it for like $1 at the thrift store, so I was like, oh, that might be useful, and works pretty well for the Mavis. That's what it's called. This here's a little drum synth kit. We actually built it on stream a year or two ago. This is a little mixer that has 1/8" jacks. It's a 4-channel mixer stereo. They're super cheap on Amazon. I just figured I'd try it since I've got a bunch of little synth gear. Roland Space Echo RE150. I've got a Boss reverb pedal, Boss delay pedal. I've got a Korg Volca sample, and the Poly D is here. I've got the power supply here for the pedals. The Mavis and the RD6 are also powered by this Donner power supply. So those all run into this little Behringer mixer here. Not that I would recommend it, but it works fine. It's clean enough. This box here is camera hardware at the back and computer cables in the front. This box is all analog cables. This box is tools. I've got extra headphones here. I've got lights here. The shelf behind here is a bunch of little toolboxes. One has Zoom H5. One has like 1/4" hardware for camera gear and lights. My green screen is back there. I still never set up that green screen properly. I don't think I've ever used it on stream or video, but I bought a big one thinking I would use it. Important to look at here. Let's move on to the next one. Cable horror of behind the desk. Yeah, so this is what you guys never see. The hell that is trying to get audio studio and a YouTube studio all connected at once. It's a lot of stuff. I don't even know where to start. Every device has a power cable and a USB cable, probably. There's HDMI, there's power, there's Ethernet. Some of the stuff comes from the ceiling. So this Ethernet cable here comes from the ceiling. This big bundle of cable is for the big light. These dark blue cables, those are from my interface to the headphone amp.
A lot of you out there throwing your money away.
Thank you very much, Kelly. Appreciate that. What's the story on the diffusers behind me? Yeah. I guess this photo. So, or these. These are a product called Art Diffusers from Acoustics First. I got these from my boss who was moving or something or upgrading, and he had a bunch of them. He bought them used. I bought them used off him. They're like sort of like thick plastic, and then somebody, either him or the person before, filled them with expanding insulation, so they're a little more dense. Normally, they're pretty expensive. I think I spent $300 for the set of 8. It's probably like $1,200 or something for them. They work. They scatter the sound in a way that doesn't make the sound dead. So anything better than a flat surface is ideal, right? And these, you can say that different types of diffusers change the sound in different ways. They can absorb certain frequencies based on the depth and the width and all that of the thing. But mainly I just going for scattering and just something interesting to look at. So I find that these tend to look pretty good on camera. But what you don't see is like the mounting holes and the gaps. And when it's here in this camera angle, I think it looks pretty solid, and it looks pretty nice with different light colors on there. Spaghetti cable management causes less induced noise transfer than coiled cables. That's my excuse. Yeah, good one. We've got optical cables going to and fro. We've got this coiled cable is power for the little plywood rack that I've got. Actually didn't show it. I should take a photo of the rack behind, but oh well. I've got a power bar, power just distribution. There's no fuse in it or anything like that. No relays. There for some of the larger rack gear or What do I have in there? The Poly D is in there. The Samsung monitor, I think, is powered there. Yeah, I mean, this would be even worse if I had all this analog gear connected. I've got 3 channels of preamps, 2 channels of a compressor in the rack that's not being used. You can see I've got a USB hub here. I've got a USB hub. I actually can't see it, but there's one right here. I've got the cables coming from the monitor or from the camera. So I've got one cam link here, one cam link here. So that's HDMI to USB. I think every port on the back of my computer is used right now. I try to keep it clean, but it's really not. But every time I try to improve it, something breaks. So right now it's working. Any questions about this before we move on to the next topic? We're actually, yeah, that took a bit longer than I expected. Behringer Xenix preamps are popular with metal studios, apparently. I think Glenn Fricker did a video about it. They sound fine. If you're going line level, you can't tell what preamp you've used. If a lot of panels, rigid fiberglass and rock wool, but no diffusers, yours look cool. Yeah, for sure. You could always use more acoustic treatment until the point where it seems to be sucking out the highs. And I noticed that before I had the diffusers, before I had the diffusers, certain sounds would just like not decay properly. Like the sound of a tambourine or a hand shaker would just like die out in your hands, and it was really weird. Acoustic guitars sounded really bad as well before I got the diffusers. Going back to the cable management, I don't know what else I can really do here. What I think I need is actually strain relief. I don't like that all these things are just hanging straight down. When I used to have everything in this rack, I would mount a hook and then bungee cords. And so all the power cables would be on one side and all the audio cables would be on the other. And they would be suspended by a bungee cord. And I haven't been doing that. And it's very difficult to get things routed properly. All the USB separated from the HDMI, separated from the audio cables. I do have analog cables going from the synth station over all the way around to the where is it? All the way around to this rack, to the Profire 2626. That's kind of the only way I can have it set up right now. You've seen mine. How about you guys show me yours, and maybe next week or the week after we can roast your studios as well, or I can at least suggest some improvements. I know that there are some things that still need improvement here. I need to set up a second pedal board just so that my stuff is more ready to use. The cable management sucks. Oh yeah, I need the guitars properly put away. I need a better overhead camera angle. Again, this shot, I need to replace this curtain. New curtain is important. But yeah, that's my setup. Hopefully that's been interesting. Hopefully that's somewhat useful. Should you email them? Yeah, emailing would be fine. Let's say you put them in Imgur or in Dropbox and email them to me using my contact form would be totally fine. So reaper.blog. I was going to say make a thread in Discord, but actually you could do it here. You could do it here as well. Just use my email form and link to your photos on Imgur or Dropbox. I had a lot of fun doing the Reddit review of studios, but I think it's more interesting to have a conversation with you guys, to be able to ask you questions and maybe see exactly what it is that you are looking or struggling with your home studio. Because I can point out things that you may have never thought of before, but it may not be an actual concern of you. How much time do we have to clean up before taking a photo? I gave myself 5 minutes today. I've got old footage from a year ago for right after I actually set up the studio. And there's one shot that has a pretzel on the floor. Clean up a little bit. I mean, I think it's always good to get your studio cleaned up and organized, but if you just want to show it to me as is, you know, that's all good. Your home studio is not going to be worse than this, I'm sure of it. Yeah, so that's the video.